What is in it for the man, whether or not he's a provider or not a provider, even without talking about sex and sexuality and access to your womb and your body. We as women bring the intangibles, whereas the man brings the tangibles. Men who are not providers are more abusive than men who are providers. And the first instance of abuse to me is going 50-50 with a man. Yeah, that's actually financial abuse. Hi lovelies, hi there and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, karibu sana. If you're a returning subscriber, karibu. And if you haven't subscribed yet, kindly do. All right, today I'm in yellow. I'm feeling bright and sunshiny and brand new. Yani, it feels like the sun is rising and setting on me. Yani, I don't know, there's something about it and this specific dress that just elevates my mood, as you can see. Hope you can feel the joy. I'm sending you the joy and the happiness and the peace. Anywho, before I get distracted and go off topic, there's this question I've been hearing women ask about being with provider men. They fear that these women normally ask, what is in it for the man? What does a man get out, a provider man get out of being with you? A lot of them ask this question from a point of fear. They fear that the man might ask for, access to their body and their womb. They fear that this man might be abusive, financially abusive. They might be controlling, they might be domineering, they might be egotistic, they might be all these other things. And this is what I have to say about it. Men, whether they are providing or not providing, either groups has the capacity to be abusive. Just the same way there are bad men, there are also good men. Same way there are good women and there are bad women. So the availability of money does not make a man to become abusive. Actually, in my very humble opinion, men who are not providers actually have a higher chance of being abusive, because these men are in a 50-50 relationship with a woman majority of the time. And a lot of the time, this woman they actually see their woman as competition. So for them to feel a sense of masculinity, they figure out a way to domineer this woman. And how do they do it? They do it actually through, abuse. That is one of the ways. So when you think about it from that perspective, actually 50-50 relationship to me are actually abusive. Yes, I'll say that, because please make this make sense for me. As a woman, there's a lot you are bringing into the relationship. Same thing as the man. Of course, the man is bringing in the tangible things, that is the money, that is the wealth, the investments, the houses, and all these other things. A lot of what we women bring are the intangible. We are bringing in our feminine energy. We are bringing in our feminine essence. We are allowing this man, yes, ultimately to access our bodies and our womb. We are bringing forth his children. Okay, we are facilitating him to actually bring forth his legacy. There's just something we as women are bringing, and I talked about it in the previous video where I was talking about the spirituality of womanhood. We as women bring the intangibles, whereas the man brings the tangibles. Okay, so the fear that some women have, and I'm not trying to shoot down your fears, and I'm not trying to invalidate your fears for being with a provider man or to be hypergamous. There's that fear of being with a provider man a lot of the times comes from a point of trauma, comes from a point of fear. And maybe some of you have mothers or had mothers who are being provided for, and then later on your dads ended up abusing them, or you've seen relatives or you've seen friends who are married to wealthy men or men who provide, and then the men end up abusing the woman. And there's this quote that says, the one who feeds you can actually starve you, which is true. But you see, you're a bright woman, surely. Just because you're being provided for does not mean you don't save. If anything, the first thing you should do out of the allowance you're being given is to save. Have your qualifications, go to school. Whether or not you choose to stay at home and be a housewife, have your qualifications, because the man may not necessarily have to abuse you, but something can happen to him. He can fall sick, he can pass away. So it's always good to have a plan B, a fallback plan, okay? So just because he is providing for you does not mean you do not use your brain, okay? So the fear that provider men are abusive, to me, it's actually unfounded. If anything, men who are not providers are more abusive than men who are providers. And the first instance of abuse to me is going 50-50 with a man. Yeah, that's actually financial abuse. To me, in my books, that's financial abuse. You know why? Because you are bringing the intangibles. You are turning his house into a home. You're carrying a pregnancy, whatever number of pregnancy, and the changes that come by carrying a pregnancy. You're carrying the emotional labor of the home, okay? And you're still bringing in your paycheck, honestly. Yet all he has to do is to provide and protect. And you're doing all these other things, and you're expected to bring your paycheck. A 50-50 man actually a 50-50 man is actually an abusive man. So this fear of being with provider men, really search within yourself. Why do you have such a fear? Why do you feel such a fear? Why can't you just allow a man to provide for you? You know? Because there's a lot of joy in being provided for. Because think about it, me who is being provided for and somebody who's not being provided for, yet they have a man whom they call their man, we are doing the same things, but then on top of it, they're bringing in their paycheck. We are doing the same things. We are still doing the same emotional labor of turning the house into a home. We are still bringing children into this world. We are still carrying pregnancies and all the changes and all the struggles that come with pregnancy. Yeah. But they are adding their paycheck on top of it. Me, I'm just showing up looking pretty. Sorry, I had to bring that one. Yeah. So when you think about it, women who are afraid to be provided for, that is coming from a point of trauma. Women who are afraid of being provided for need to investigate where that trauma comes up from. Whether it's from experience, from your parents' experience, whether it's from your relatives and what you've seen around. And I think it's also from a perspective of generalization, because not all men are the same. And if you've noticed, I've never said that men are this or men are that. I've never tried to generalize. Because just the same way they are good men, they are good women. Just the same way they are bad men, they are bad women. So I will not sit here and say men are this, men are that, men are the other. I'll never generalize. But what I'm going to say is this. What is in it for a man, a provider man, is exactly what the 50-50 man gets. But on top of what the 50-50 man gets, he also gets the paycheck that the wife brings, which is very wrong. Why would a woman do all that and then still bring in their paycheck? That's abusive and manipulative if you ask me, okay? So this idea that, particularly for the girls who are now dating, okay, they fear being with provider men because they fear that they're going to be abusive. They fear being with provider men because they're afraid they're going to be manipulative. All men want control. It's just the fact of life. All men, and by men I mean men, you know, with the appendages and everything. All men want control. All men want to domineer. All men are territorial. Okay? But not all men are abusive. Not all men are manipulative. However, 50-50 men, broke men, tend to be more manipulative and abusive as compared to provider men. Because provider men have a lot more to lose. A 50-50 man literally has nothing to lose. Maybe he'll lose your paycheck. But a 50-50 man has nothing to lose. A 50-50 man has no legacy. A 50-50 man, him and his defective genetics, all they're bringing to you is just poverty mentality, to be quite honest with you. All they're doing is draining you of your essence. All they're doing is enjoying your presence, your feminine essence, your body, accessing your womb, and still expecting your paycheck. So if anything, 50-50 men are the abusive ones. Provider men they're providing for you. Are some abusive? Absolutely. Are some manipulative, narcissistic, and whatever? Absolutely. Some are that way. But in my experience, and I've never dated anybody, and I've never been with anybody who is broke and who, does not provide. I've always been provided for. Like that just has always been me. None of them were abusive. None. None of them were manipulative. None. It actually makes me wonder who you are attracting and why. Why are you attracted to men who ask you for 50-50? Why are you afraid that you're going to lose control? Are you afraid that they're going to walk out and leave you vulnerable? Why are you, like, honestly, like, I'm genuinely curious, and I'd love for you to mention in the comments, why are you afraid of being with a provider man? Why would you rather be with a man who you're sharing, giving 50-50? You're bringing all that, and you're still... That doesn't make sense to me at all. Yeah? But why? Why are you afraid? What stories have you heard about provider men? Because I have never been with a broke man. I have always been provided for, and I've never been abused, ever. I've never been manipulated, ever. Never. So what is it that you're afraid of, and who exactly are you attracting, and why? Because if you're attracting 50-50 men, the math is not mathing. If you're very comfortable discussing with a man, talking about, I'll bring this amount of money at the end of the month, you bring this, something is not right, to be very honest with you. Something is not right. A man and the men I've interacted with, no, absolutely not. How? How do they even call themselves a man when they can't provide for their woman? How do they call themselves a man when they can't provide for their kids? How? For me, it beats logic, honestly. And it's common sense to me that a man should provide, like, absolutely. Like, it's not even something to have a conversation over with a man. Like, that's, like, you're not talking about it, but you expect it. Yeah. And that's the energy I go with. That a man should provide, plain and simple, period. And the fear that a man is going, just because he's providing, he's going to be abusive and manipulative. Everybody has the capacity to be abusive and manipulative. We might as well be with a provider man who, if he decides to be manipulative, at least he's paying the bills. I can't imagine being with a broke man whom you're going to go 50-50 with, and then he's still manipulating you. Like, honestly, like, pick a struggle. Pick a struggle. Pick a struggle. You try to manipulate me, but pay all the bills. And when I said try, I said tried, because it can never happen. But genuinely ask yourself, why, as a woman, are you afraid to be the provider man? Because it does not make sense. Men are supposed to provide. Ask yourself, is it from how you were raised? How was your father, if you had a father? Because that can also be an issue. You've never seen a man provide. Or you had a dad, but the dad was not providing. Yeah? Or you had a boyfriend who provided, but he did something. But you see, you cannot use a blanket statement that provider men are manipulative and abusive, yet you only experienced one provider man. No, absolutely not. I've given you an example of me. I've never been with a broke man, and I've always been provided for, and none of them has ever abused me. So I think that's a very false narrative. To me, from my experience, provider men are actually very astute. They're very firm. They know what they want and they go for it. And if that is controlling for you, I don't know. Because men are supposed to be territorial. Men are supposed to be astute and firm. That's the whole essence of masculinity. To pursue, to provide, to do the right thing. If anything, that thing within them, that masculine nature within them that allows them to provide, rather than manipulate and rather than being predatory, they're actually using it to provide. Whereas these other ones have taken the same capacity and use it to be predatory. So yeah, ask yourself, why are you afraid to be the provider man? Because they are the best, honestly speaking. And me, you'll never hear me speak smack about men. Not one single day. A man pays my bills, for crying out loud. A man takes care of me. So why should I speak smack about them? Are there bad men? Absolutely. Just the same as there are bad women. But there's some very amazing men out there. Just the same way there are some very amazing women. So for women who are afraid to be with masculine provider men, ask. So for those who are afraid to be with masculine provider men because you feel that they're going to be predatory or something, I think that's the wrong mindset. Yeah? In my opinion, you need to ask yourself why you are so afraid to be with a provider man. Secondly, don't group and bunch everybody. Yeah, just don't. There's some very amazing men out there, and I think your fear and your trauma is blocking you from actually enjoying the benefits of being with a man, because you'll still be with a man. Give them access to your body, give them access to your womb, give them access to your feminine energy and essence, give them access to your spirituality. Then you add your paycheck. That math is not mathing for me. It does not matter for me. And that's why you'll find that a lot of these women tend to, feel drained and feel tired and energetically drained, to be specific. Whereas some of us are out there living our best lives, being taken care of. So what is in it for the man? Whether or not he's a provider or not a provider, even without talking about sex and sexuality and access to your womb and your body, your feminine energy, your attention, your time, okay, your essence, your spirituality, that's what is in it for the man, whether or not he's providing. So your fear of being with a provider man, whether you are with a provider man or not a provider man, he gets to access all that. But why should he access all that then he's not taking care of you financially? Why should he access all that yet he's not providing and protecting you? So all men get to access all those things, but he better be paying. Those are just the facts of life. So stop shortchanging yourself. It costs to be the boss. So give him access to your time, to your energy, to your spirituality, and then ultimately to your body, your womb, and the capacity to have children. And that is ultimately, okay? But at the end of the day, whether or not a man is providing, there's something he's getting out of you. So he might as well pay for it. The least he can do is pay. The least he can do is provide for you. The least he can do is protect you. Okay? Find that for a lot of dusty men, broke men, they tend to be more abusive, if anything, more than provider men, because they have to feel a sense of masculinity and a sense of control. And the only way they can do that is by actually manipulating you, by controlling you. Actually think about it. By the time a woman is going 50-50 with a man, isn't that financial abuse? Because a woman, you're bringing in your essence, you're bringing your feminine energy, you're probably taking care of the home and turning the house into a home. You're bringing in your femininity, yeah? You're bringing in your feminine energy, you're bringing in your spirituality. Then this man still expects you to go 50-50 with him financially. You're doing the emotional labor of the home, but this man expects you to go to work, do the emotional labor of the home, and still provide 50% of the bills. Yet all he does is just go to work. Really? That is actually an abusive man, if you ask me. That is actually the definition of abuse in my mind. Because by the time a man is expecting for you as his woman to go to work full time, okay? He's also expecting for you to turn the house into a home, to access your body, your womb, your energy, to give him sex, to raise his babies, and then he still expects your paycheck. Isn't that abuse? But here you are fearing provider masculine men, when a lot of the times all they require from you is to just look pretty, just be a trophy. All they require from you is just bring your feminine energy into their lives. And a lot of them, by the way, particularly those who are interested in long-term relationships, yes, they're attracted to you, and yes, sex is on their mind, but that is not what they lead with. Because they know ultimately what you bring into the relationship are the intangibles. Them, they're bringing the tangibles. They're bringing you the house. They're bringing you their bank account. They're providing and protecting you. They're bringing you the tangibles. They understand a masculine man A healthy masculine man understands that what a woman brings is the intangible. You bring in your feminine essence. You're bringing in your spirituality. Okay? And you cannot put a price tag on that. And that's why you'll never find a healthy masculine man asking this question. I hear these days, people asking at what do you bring to the table? Yani, I pity people who are dating right now because it can't be me. It can never. And I'm not saying this to dismiss women who are genuinely fearful of being with provider men. I'm not saying this to dismiss women who are genuinely afraid of hypergamy. Because think about it, hypergamy means you marry somebody preferably of a higher economic or financial status than you, so that they can be able to provide for you and your offspring. So from an evolutionary perspective, it makes logical sense. And women who tend to fear hypergamy are afraid of the idea that if he feeds you, he'll starve you. Which is true. If he can feed you, he can also starve you. But you're a bright woman, surely. As he's feeding you, you're saving. Whether you choose to go to a full-time job, whether you choose to go to a part-time job, whether you choose to have a business, as he's feeding you, as he's giving you your allowance, for whatever, for your upkeep and whatever, you're saving. So that in the event that something happens to him, you can actually take care of yourself and your kids if they are kids, okay? So I think for women who are afraid of hypergamy, they're coming from a perspective of trauma. For women who are afraid of hypergamy, they do not know that just because you're being provided for, you should not just sit there. You should have some qualifications, go to school, have a degree, have a certificate or a diploma in something. Be able to go back to work if you need to, okay? Have your savings, have some investments. Being provided for does not mean that you just, don't care about tomorrow. No, if anything, you should care so much about tomorrow, but you do it on his dime, okay? So this whole idea of putting down women who prefer, like me, who prefer to be provided for, putting down women who are hypergamous, thinking that, if he feeds you, he can starve you, and then asking what is in it for the man. There's a lot in it for the man, and that's why healthy masculine men will never, not for even 1 second, ask you what you bring to the table. I would encourage more women to actually be hypergamous. So until next time, I'll see you on the next one. Toodles!